All righty. Looks like we are up and running. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome back to the Sleuth Intuition channel. Today, we are going to look at the case against Richard Allen, Richard M. Allen. Now, I want to talk to both sides of this discussion. Folks who think that there's not enough to even try him, they believe he, according to what they see and what's been presented by the prosecution and within this PCA that we're going to look at here in just a moment, they don't think it's enough to even arrest him. Some even say they arrested him for political reasons and that he's being railroaded. So I want to hear your thoughts. Me personally, I think there is enough to hold him and to try him for these murders. But to say he's 100% guilty, I would need to see the discussion between experts, and they would need to convince me with the ballistic part of all of this that that bullet cycled through Richard Allen's gun. If they could convince me of that, I would be 100%. Just the thought of somebody planting the gun there or sneaking into the evidence room, like that's a whole nother crime. So you would have to kind of, with me anyway, approach that as its own offense. You'd have to prove it. Kind of like what I believe they're doing now with Richard Allen. So I think what we're going to do is we'll look at the probable cause. We'll spend a lot of time on the bullet. A couple things I want to talk about: the fire pit, Orion, some of the timeline details. I put together a generic timeline. We've seen it before. It needs to be updated. I'll work on that probably after the stream. I need to put together a better timeline. But this one will do. It's pretty much spot on when it comes to the witnesses and the bridge guy and all of that coming and going. We'll look at the witness list, and we'll spend time in the discussion in between. Good to see you, Metal. Big Bird, what's up? Good afternoon, D. Ziggy. Christine. Night Shadow. What's up, Dawn? Rain Dancer, good to see you. Patricia Warner. Welcome in all you lurkers. Folks who can't comment, they might be driving. Eyes on the road. You know I'm talking to. Christine says, I really believe they have a good case and evidence. Okay, what are some examples? And I want to hear a lot from you guys today about what you think. Now, for me, it's the timeline. If they can prove that all that information is accurate, I don't know, that witnesses might even point at Richard Allen. They might say, do you see that person in the courtroom? They might point right at him. Like, yeah, now that they caught him, that's him right there. No doubt about it. Shadowbox says, hi, everyone. Going to listen and try and nap. Hope you're all good today. I'm well. Hope you're doing okay. Good to see you, Beth. Melissa Balboa, what's up? What is up, Frank? Sharon, here to learn about the case. Well, we are going to play the entire probable cause. Well, it's actually an objection to the defense's attempt to suppress what was found with that search warrant. So we're going to hear the state's response to that, and it includes the probable cause affidavit. So you're going to hear pretty much one side of the story, which is the prosecution side. And we may go into the leaked defense memorandum if we need to, if you guys have any questions that go that route. Good to see you, Sparky, Metal Mama, Farmer, what up? Jerry, what's up, Lisa? John, hello. What's going on, Ziggy? It's good, Jesse, welcome in. Horiahito. Jari. Yeah, I heard it was like -6 in some places today. Yikes. That's crazy. That's the kind of weather that will kill you. Return the diamonds. How you doing? Oh, it's 6 here degrees. -6? Oh man, wind chill was -27. That's no bueno. $50, that's not bad. It's about it's about that. 50, between 50 and 60 here. Camaro, good to see you. Anything I like. Miranda, good afternoon. Bird Brain, what's up? So February 13th, it'll be 7 years that somebody killed Abby and Libby. Now, me personally, I feel it was a highly motivated crime. Many tools were used to organize it. And I tend to agree with the prosecution that there's others involved. I don't know what that means. I don't know if actually on site, behind the scenes, after the fact, part of the planning, or all of the above. But I'm pretty sure this guy right here, Richard Allen, was the bridge guy. He's being charged with kidnapping that led to murder. Most likely scenario is he's a lone wolf. He was triggered that day for whatever reason. He spent a lot of time there. And for whatever reason, decided to go forward with this crime. And maybe only he can explain what was going on. Could have been a mental health issue mixed with drugs. He's going to have to tell that part of it all if he's if he is the guy on the bridge. And I can't say for sure. I mean, the video is just way too blurry, but we got the gate. That's spot on. We've never seen anything so close. I mean, identical. It's not similar, it's the same. I mean, down to the flick of the foot. So if it's the gate they were looking at, there you go. I mean, there's no argument there, let alone the comparisons. Good to see you, Bird Brain. Sorry about that. Didn't mean to startle you. Jessica, welcome in. Good to see you, Jari. Hope you're staying warm. Truffles. Shame on Richard Allen. Would also like to see the confession transcripts. I mean, to me, honestly, the only thing that I've seen that I don't feel is fair is the distances attorneys have to travel and the fact that they're telling the public that he's confessed to the crimes, and we haven't seen the transcripts. We know they have them, so I feel that's a little unfair. Unless they are, in fact, legitimate confessions like, I did do this. I did it. What they're accusing me of, yeah, I killed those girls. And then the call's ended. I'm sure it's not that my cousin Vinny scenario where they're like, you killed the clerk. He goes, I killed the clerk? And he writes down, okay, he just told me he killed the clerk. I killed the clerk? You killed the clerk. I don't think that's what we're dealing with here. Danny N, what's up? I think they have more evidence. I think they do too. There's a lot of talk of motorcycle cover. I don't know too much about that. I know it is mentioned in the Discovery Index. And I know that there's I don't know if it's a theory, conspiracy theory, rumor that it's possible he came back and did a lot of the weird stuff, right? Maybe even something near the Weber property. But if he came back on his motorcycle, he may have left DNA on it. So when he puts the cover back over the top, it's going to transfer over. So I don't know if he got rid of the motorcycle, if it wasn't his, if he sold it but kept the cover. Maybe they found DNA in there. I also heard they did a buckle swab from his vehicle. Took chunks of his carpet. Neighbors told us they were digging. Let's take a look at that. See, the one thing we didn't really hear too much about is what they found when they were digging. So the neighbors told Fox News that they had metal detectors over here. And you can obviously tell that this is a fire pit that has now been hidden, right? We know that there was plants growing over the top of this fire pit. Neighbors said they were using metal detectors and they dug a few small holes, and it was only for a quick moment. They dug it and they found what they were looking for, is what it sounded like. So here's a good photo, and you can see, not quite sure what that is. Maybe some strawberries right there, but this looks like maybe for some tomatoes or something. But you can tell that they definitely weren't using it as a fire pit. So whoever was doing the gardening here must have known that this was being concealed. There's even like a hammer right there. And then I'm pretty sure this is a barbecue grill. But from the placement and where we're looking from, this is the driveway, I think. Could be wrong. But when it came time to sell the home, hey, look what magically appeared. The fire pit. And what the hell is going on with this shed? Now think about it. If this is his little shed here, don't come in here. It would make sense that he buried something right here. Or burned it, right? It's probably what happened. No more garden. Back to the fire pit. So we didn't hear a whole lot about that. Thanks, Renee. Renee Days, Rainy Days. Thanks for sponsoring today's live stream. What up, Lurker? We got a Lurker drone. Welcome in. What's going on, Miranda? Oh, did we miss some folks? Sorry. Heather Marie, welcome in. Leslie, Candice, Tech Death. Think I got you, Rain Dancer. No FX, what's up? Been a minute. And Boston. Thanks, Metal. Looks like Metal has just gifted somebody a Sleuth Intuition membership, and we're having a members meeting tomorrow. So just in time. BN Mama. Nana, what's up? Truffles, I wonder what the police found in Richard Allen's property. Well, according to his former defense team, just a bunch of generic shit, right? Typical clothing. But a whole lot of knives. I don't know if you guys had a chance to go through the evidence list. A lot of knives, like mini katanas, basic clothing, jeans, a lot of blue jeans, jackets, hats, hoodies. They found his gun. The gun was loaded. Found some loose, unspent bullets. What's up, Julia? Why might Richard Allen's defense go the Odin route instead of KK and or Ron Logan? Do you think it's because there's no evidence of a link, or because there is evidence of a link, therefore implicating Richard Allen even more? Yeah, I think it's more so that, the latter. But here's what I think. New defense team, same client, right? Richard Allen is telling him this is the direction that we're going. And how do I know it? Because the guards who threatened my life told me so. So something that I didn't know prior. So the guards basically told him what he better keep his mouth shut about. I'm going to tell you something. But if you tell anybody, I'm going to kill your entire family. Why would they even tell him if he didn't know? It doesn't make any sense. Okay, so they get the boot. The new guys come in. Richard Allen's like, okay, bear with me here. Odinites. They're like, dude, really? They're there to represent him. They're not there to bully him and tell him what he's going to do with his case. The two Utes. The two what? The Utes. The two what? What did you say? That's funny, coach. I'm glad somebody caught that. You killed the clerk. I killed the clerk. You killed the clerk. Hold on, guys. Let me shut my window. Alrighty. Oh, and crime scene photos. Think of the damage that that team did. I mean, that was awful. They would still be on the case, working it right now for Richard Allen. He could have the attorneys that he wanted. We wouldn't be waiting another year. So there is no difference. The only difference here is that I think Baldwin and Rosie were more willing to play ball. They're like, okay, sounds good to us. Whatever keeps our names out there, we're going to be stuck doing this free of charge. It's not technically not pro bono, or is it? I'm not quite sure how the state works. Maybe they have to do that ever so often as attorneys there, and their name was drawn. Like, hey, you guys are up. Just so happened to be the Delphi case. They're like, damn it. Well, how do we make a bad situation good? Well, we can at least get some good exposure from this. I mean, I don't think we have a winner here. This is probably something they said, in private. So they pulled the old Hail Mary, run quick see. All right, let me catch up on the chat, and then we're going to go into the objection to suppress, and we'll hear the probable cause affidavit. Good to see you, 517. Good to see you, Doris. I know I'm missing somebody. Night Shadow says, maybe they found pics of the murder at his house. We would have heard about that. I'm pretty sure we would have heard about it. Well, I mean, I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe there's some things that were not put in the probable cause affidavit that eventually were released in the discovery that weren't put out to the public. We know definitely not by the prosecution. And if it was damning to the defense's narrative, they're not going to include it in any leaked information. So I think it is possible that there's some things out there they have against Richard Allen that haven't really been made public yet. One, because the defense doesn't want them made public, and neither does the prosecution. They keep saying that they have an open case and looking for other actors. Frank says SIM card. Yeah, they found a lot of electronics, old cell phones, thumb drives. One was marked Rick. So, I mean, we haven't heard any details about what was found on those thumb drives. Maybe that's all in the discovery. Thank you, Ziggy. Shout out to Ziggy. the super sticker. Thank you guys for sponsoring today's live stream. Renee, Metal Mama, and the Ziggy. The Zigmeister. Julia Richard. Whack Shack. Something's up with that, man. I mean, why are they digging right next to that weird? And I don't know if it's, I don't know, would you call it a shack? It's not a shack. It's really just a shed. Have you guys ever seen the movie The Shed? JK. JK. What? Chopper Harris, what up? 15 knives. Damn. Including a mini katana. Sometimes that whatever he's got, that brown thing hanging from his waist, it almost looks like a holster slash like knife sheath. And the knife is like a deer horn or an antler horn or something. An antler end handle made out of elk or deer antlers. So I don't know if they found anything like that.
Get to the chopper!
Just saying. New crypto winners. Law enforcement may have been looking for spent shell casings in the yard. That would explain the metal detector and small holes dug. But why in the fire pit? According to the witness, which was the neighbor, they even took a couple photos and shared them. They didn't spend much time. It's not like they searched the whole yard, right? They didn't do a grid search. They went directly to the fire pit that was hidden. You know, it was no longer a fire pit. So they dug up the new garden, which used to be a fire pit. Didn't spend much time, dug 3 small holes, and found what they were looking for. So whatever it was, to me, I don't know. That tells me that there's a witness. Does it read that way to you guys? Somebody said, "This is how I know." You know, he buried something right there and hid the fire pit. And also, he has something in the shed, or, you know, I don't know. I just feel like there's a witness behind that information. They had intel. You know, they didn't search the whole yard according to the witness. They went directly to the fire pit. Sees through says, "What do you think the water bottle is about?" Yeah, that's a good question. Maybe they were going to use it to for DNA, possibly. Maybe it was even a trophy. There was talk early on in the case that there was a water bottle or something involved. You know, they were looking for a water bottle. They knew one of the girls had a water bottle. Maybe in the 43 seconds of video, you can see somebody has, you know, the water bottle in their hand at some point. But yeah, I was curious about that too. What's good, Tech Death? Interesting. All right, we're going to go listen to the PCA here in just a second. Hey, what is up, ATS News? Another great channel. Nedra, I'm pretty sure that Richard Allen is out of his mind. I don't know. I don't want to assume anything about the guy. He's had 6 years. He could have been planning all of this. I believe he had his playbook ready to go. After year 3, he knew, he was just replaying it in his mind at that point, what he would do step by step. Probably even looking into what might happen to him as far as where he would go, where he would stay, how to get the case thrown out, mistrial. He might even have a plan A, B, and C. Right now, he's rerunning plan A with the new defense team. Because at some point, he's going to be dealing with the jury, and he knows they haven't been selected yet. So it'll be a fresh start when that happens. Tom with the super chat, maybe the shed is the shack. That's why I said that. Have you seen the movie The Shed? Coming this fall. The Shed. Maybe Travis Kessler was the whistleblower. Who is Travis Kessler? New crypto winners. This is a good comment here. The last place his defense counsel wants to lead the case is towards Peru, Indiana. They want the prosecutors to have to focus on trying to discredit the Odin theory during the trial. Yeah, they're basically trying to kill two birds with one stone. They're creating a distraction tactic while creating another person of interest other than their client. And to me, they don't want the online sleuthing community anywhere near the Anthony shots and the Peru connection between Richard Allen and all of that. They don't want that. And I also think that that's their ace in the hole. When all of that confidential information comes out regarding Keegan Kline, it's going to be very interesting. Mustang, good to see you. Can't wait for trial. Julia Burns, wouldn't it make more sense to destroy a SIM card instead of burying it? Unless he had intentions of digging it up one day like some sick pedo time capsule. Well, we know the BTK buried all of his shit in a shed, inside the shed, underneath the foundation. If he even had one. Not quite sure how he had the shed set up, but it was definitely buried like a foot or two in the ground. He had ligatures and a few other items. Posy traction. Nice. I'm liking the references. Good to see you, Richard. Agreed. Sleuth, new defense, same client. Continuing down the Odinist defense strategy is a huge mistake for Allen, but it's all he's got. And this could just be one step to something bigger. This just might be just part of what he's got up his sleeve. He's going to try to drag it all out and play the victim the entire time. I mean, it's working on a lot of folks. And I don't know what a lot of these content creators are going to do once he just comes out and says, yeah, I'm guilty. What are they going to say? Oh, well, I was just defending justice. Put yourself in his position. What you mean? Having investigators who have been investigating a case for over 6 years, who have served multiple search warrants, serve a search warrant on me, and finally find something solid? You better fucking haul my ass in. I bet you Richard Allen, if he's heard these folks who are supporting him, he's probably like, damn, these people are freaking stupid. Like, how wicked are these people? And they're like, I have cheerleaders? Okay. Like, okay. Yeah, that was the best season, Leslie. Kitty Wombly Lista. Wombla Wombly Easta. We all know he wasn't afraid to go into other people's garages if the story of him breaking in a neighbor's garage to steal something is true. Wouldn't be far fetched regarding the Weber garage. And I've never been able to validate that, Kitty, but I have heard that. That was a story that came out early on. So I don't know if that was something investigators were saying just to kind of create misinformation about who tipped in Richard Allen, or why they had probable cause to search that shed, maybe. And I think that could also go to the tip, right? They went directly over there to the fire pit, which happens to be right next to the shed. So maybe somebody said, "Hey, I think he's the suspect because I saw something in his shed that might be linked to the crime, and he also buried something or burned something. Maybe while they were doing the Wabash River search, maybe he panicked, started burning some shit up. I don't know." Big Bird says he had 6 years to prepare. Indeed. And I mean, he's going down the same route. And I think that's why the prosecution, or I think that's why they made the decision to move him. We heard Keegan Klein say, "Oh man, I'm so mad. They're moving me out of Wabash Valley. I was happy here. I was settled in. I liked it here. Now, because of this SOB, Richard Allen being transferred here, they're moving me out of here." I think they did that knowing that Richard Allen would just jump right back into his playbook, make the same complaints. Well, you need to transfer me. You need to do this. Okay, where would you like him transferred to? Wabash Valley. Okay, well, we already did that. But here he is yet again with the new defense team right out of his playbook. So for some reason, part of his plan is being transferred. He has to be transferred, or he has to. It's almost as if he has to explain why he knows Odinism is involved, right? Why it's the Odinites. And for him, it seems like part of that story is the guards. Now, we all know in Indiana, you're going to find people who are Norse, who practice Norse paganism. It's very prominent out there. That's just a fact. So it'd be easy for him to go that route. All he has to do is find 2 out of what? How many guards that are working there who have a tattoo, who have a patch? So maybe that's his part of the playbook. Like, can you explain how you know that it's these Odinites? Well, it was the guards. They threatened me. They told me it was them. And look, they have face tattoos. Look at their Facebook. They're into this shit. So it could even be the reason the crime scene kind of looks like a ritual. I don't think that it does. But I think Richard Allen had plenty of time to say, hey, it could. I could go in that direction, especially if he was participating in social media on all the Facebook groups. Remember that Richard Allen Hill guy? This guy was up in the Facebook groups asking about what people thought about the video. Do they think that there was a gun? He asked a lot about the audio. He was asking, did they say anything about a gun? So who knows? We know Koberger did that shit. New Crypto says if Richard Allen confessed and decided to turn state's witness, he would need to admit his involvement and would still get life without parole and would ruin his chances of getting off at trial. I agree. What's up, Saska? Right, Richard? He sure didn't fear the Odinist. Well, he didn't know it at that. He didn't know it then, right? He didn't know it until he was threatened by the guards. Remember, is my wife okay? Is she alive? Why do you ask, Richard? Well, the guards told me that they're the real killers and that if I say anything, they're going to kill my family. You don't say. So it seems like that's just his way of explaining how he knows it, right? In court, how do you know the Odinist did this? Well, they told me. What's up, Dove Magic? Nedra, it has warmed up 15 whole degrees. Julia says, off topic, but before I forget, are you currently looking for any cases? Yeah, for True Crime in the Morning, I'm always looking for new cases. Right now, we're kind of focusing on missing people who went missing under strange circumstances. Yeah, we just covered Bradley Wayne Allen. That was a good live stream. Currently communicating with his sister. I need to get back to her. I think we might even cover Chelsea Woods. Maybe even Lauren Spearer. So cases like that. They vanished without a trace. They believe there's foul play, but they're just not sure. I want to get those cases under the spotlight where we can look at them as a group together, brainstorm about it. ATS says, I think there's a lot found we haven't seen yet in the PCA or in general. What do you think it could be? Because I agree. I think it has to do with maybe somebody who tipped in Richard Allen, somebody on the Keegan Klein side. I don't know. I still suspect maybe the daughter of Richard Allen and her husband, they would have had access to that shed. Maybe they saw something that they just couldn't ignore. Maybe they found something that law enforcement was unable to recover. Let's say Richard Allen had a little bit of a heads up, maybe. Okay, let's give this a listen. We're pretty much caught up here. One More Fall says, I appreciate your West Memphis 3 quote in the poll. That's the case that got me into true crime. Me as well. Following it since 1999. And that's what they asked the lead investigator. They said, how solid of a case do you have? 1 out of 10. And he said, an 11. Well, those boys are free men today. So in a case he said was an 11, Those kids are now free. So let that sink in a little bit. Sees through. Rick with no internet footprint needs thumb drives. Yeah, and who knows what he was doing? We've come across a lot of weird things, like even strange Pinterest accounts, with just kind of just filled with smut. Maybe he would use these phones, thumb drives, just to access, things like that. He would have time to go and get rid of any like CSAM, you would think. Yeah. And then the confession. That goes back to the West Memphis 3 case as well. Jesse Miskelly and his supposed coerced confession. Under duress. Coach says if he feared Odin as guards, there is zero chance his defense team wouldn't have sealed a whole or a portion of the Franks memo. I agree. You think they would want to show his search warrant? Like, if he's innocent, there should be nothing found that is damaging. If you have an innocent client, who cares if he has 6 blue jackets and 8 pairs of boots and blue jeans, right? Who cares? It's all generic, right? That wouldn't be hard to prove in a court of law. Like, hey, jury, don't you think it's possible anybody could have a blue jacket and blue jeans? Yes. Okay. End of story. That's not what they're trying to hide. It's something else. Little one says Richard Allen had an interest in the pagan worship. Look closely at the brown pouch. Well, I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's a brown pouch. I don't know if it's another jacket or hoodie underneath his coat. I don't know if it's a holster. It's really hard to tell. Yeah, very strange. I wonder if he was watching True Detective and came up with that idea. Because I hear people bring that up all the time. Like, oh, it reminds me of True Detective. Maybe that's where he got the idea. Remember, if he's the killer, he had access to all the crime scene details, right up in his head, maybe even took photographs. If he had his phone with him, how hard would it have been for him to document the murders? Shit, maybe that's what they found in the Wabash River. It's that damn phone. Ran the MEID number and boom, popped it up in the Orion system. They're like, who the hell is Richard Allen Whiteman? Yeah, Big Bird says it's all for show. He's about to get his first 2 clowns back. No, they're gone. They withdrew, were disqualified. You can't pick disqualified attorneys to represent you. You want to know why? Because they were disqualified. Hello. Thank you, Jari. Yeah, hit me up, sleuthintuition@gmail.com. Yeah, who knows? Maybe he burned like a laptop, burned some phones. Maybe they were looking for buttons. from a burned piece of clothing. All right, let's listen to the probable cause affidavit. Let's see. It's 25 minutes long. We'll stop and go too if we need to. Let's go to this comment here. Coach Kev says, "I'm doing a video on a series killers trophies as we speak. They can't get rid of the stuff. It's a compulsion. They can't control it. Yeah, they get all up in their head about it. You know, I can keep it. They won't find it. I'll hide it. They can't. They literally cannot bring themselves to part with these trophies, and that's how they end up getting caught. I mean, what's the difference, right? They already are on to them. What's the difference if they find the trophy? They're already probably busted anyway. Might as well hold on to it. That way they can relive the moment over and over and over. You guys can hear that okay, right? Let me get if somebody can confirm that in the chat. For real, did I get blocked? My last two comments did not show. No, but should we be looking for a reason to block you? Now I'm leery. Ruckus says there's others involved that were talked to way back when. What's up, Ruckus? New crypto winner says, I just hope they have enough to secure a conviction. See, and that's the part I'm not sure about. I would need to really, really be convinced about that bullet. That's what does it for me. Him being on the trail, him looking like the bridge guy, the girls seeing him seeing the girls, and then also the girl saying the person that they saw is the guy in Libby's video. Now, if you can tie all that with the crime scene, which they're trying to do with the unspent shell, that's enough for me. State's objection to defendant's motion to suppress. Now comes the state of Indiana by prosecuting attorney Nicholas C. McClelland and respectfully objects to the defendant's motion to suppress and would
Can you guys
ask
hear
the
that
court
now?
to deny the same, and in support of said motion states the following.
That on May 19th, 2023, the defendant filed a motion to suppress the evidence seized as a result of a search warrant executed on the home
Thanks, Sparky.
of the defendant on October 13th, 2022. 2. That the defense alleges that the search warrant was unreasonable under the Indiana and federal constitution and that it lacked probable cause, that it failed to establish that the items to be seized were in the residence or could be expected to be in the residence, that the affidavit failed to provide particular information that particular items related to a particular crime would be found in the home, and that the affidavit failed to connect generic items to actual items that were possibly used in the crime. 3. That in September 2022, while reviewing the evidence in the investigation into the murders of Abigail Williams and Liberty German, investigators discovered an interview that was done with Richard Allen in 2017 by Indiana Conservation Officer Dan Doolin. 4. That in the 2017 interview, Richard Allen admitted being on the trail the day that Abigail Williams and Liberty German went missing. 5. That he stated that he was on the trail between 1:30 p.m. and 3:30 p.m., and that while he was on the trail, he was using his phone. 6. That on October 13th, 2022, investigators invited Richard Allen and his wife Kathy Allen to speak to them and follow up on that interview done in 2017. 7.
That could have been when he started burning some stuff up or trying to get rid of items.
That both Richard Allen and Kathy Allen came to the interview on their own on October 13th, 2022, were not under arrest, and were free to leave the interview at any time. 8. The investigators learned from those interviews that Richard Allen reaffirmed that he was in fact on the trails that day that Abby Williams and Liberty German went missing, and further admitted to being on the High Bridge. That he also told investigators that he was wearing blue jeans and a blue or black Carhartt jacket with the hood, and that he was wearing a head covering. That was 9. 10. That further, Richard stated that he did own guns and that the guns were in his home. 11. That investigators learned from Kathy that Richard Allen still had guns and knives in the home, along with the blue Carhartt jacket. 12. That investigators believed a firearm was involved in the abduction and murder of Abigail Williams and Liberty German because the unspent .40 caliber round was found between the bodies of Abigail Williams and Liberty German. 13. That investigators believed a knife was used in the murder of Abigail Williams and Liberty German. 14. That the clothes that Richard Allen described wearing the day he was on the trails matched the description of the man seen on the bridge from the video taken by Liberty German's phone. 15. That it was also gathered that Richard Allen still possessed the firearms, knives, and the clothing, and said items were in his house.
And also, right before, this was right around the time of the Wabash River search, but you had YouTubers and maybe even a few podcasters, and I had information about this long ago, but I didn't speak about it. And I know that a group of people also knew about it, but it was the unspent bullet that was it was discussed. Well, I was told it was in the original search warrant, the Maxwell search warrant, that they took his 40 cal and compared it to a casing that was found at the location. So one thing I noticed is right before the Richard Allen arrest is you had a few podcasters who were talking about this information. And I don't know if they took down the videos. I don't know if you can still go find them and kind of set the timeline of when those videos came out and when they started putting pressure on Richard Allen. I mean, it was one after the other. So either they already knew about Richard Allen and they didn't want this information to tarnish their case, right? They always talked about how they had a few aces that they were keeping close to the chest. They were holding their cards close. And then boom, here's somebody exposing their hand. It may have forced them to say, hey, look, we got to go after him with what we have.
16. That based on this information, investigators prepared a probable cause affidavit with the search warrant for the home of Richard Allen. 17.
We got a super chat from Tom. Says, I still think the girls came there to meet somebody. So do I. I just don't think. I think the likely scenario is that he's a lone wolf and only he can answer for what he did that day and why he did it and why he chose to do it. But when I look at all of the facts surrounding the case, the picture that I see in front of me is that the killer was highly motivated, lured the girls there, and had connection to the Anthony Shots account. And I also believe that there was some type of a inappropriate relationship going on with one of the girls, and the Anthony Shots was implemented as a tool to glean information about what their intentions were in regards to this inappropriate relationship and what they plan to do about it. And this person, right before Thanksgiving, Valentine's Day, the last thing he needed was any problems in his marriage. So he needed to silence these potential witnesses. Now, that's just a theory.
That the probable cause affidavit covers all the information that law enforcement had gathered in the investigation up until October 13th, 2022. 18. That investigators applied for the search warrant on October 13th, 2022, and the same was granted that day by Carroll County Circuit Court Judge Benjamin Diener, herein attached as State Exhibit 1. 19. Investigators went to the residence of defendant located at 1967 North Whiteman Drive, Delphi, Indiana, knocked on the door and executed the search warrant around 5 p.m. on October 13th, 2022, and the search warrant was complete around 7:09 p.m. 20. The defendant and his wife were asked to be out of the residence while the search warrant was executed, but were allowed back in the residence immediately afterwards. 21. Investigators found several items in the residence, including firearms and electronic devices, all of which is outlined in the search warrant. Return attached herein as State's Exhibit 2. That on Monday, February 13th, 2017, at approximately 1:50 p.m., Abigail and Liberty German were dropped off by a family member at the Monon High Bridge Trail off of County Road 300 North. On Tuesday, February 14th, 2017, at approximately 12:17 p.m., the girls were found deceased.
Later,
Their bodies were located in the woods northeast of the Monon High Bridge. Autopsies of the girls ruled their deaths as a homicide, and their wounds were caused by a sharp object. Investigators located Liberty German's iPhone 6S under her body at the scene and were able to recover a video approximately 43 seconds in length, captured at 2:13 p.m. on February 13th, 2017. The video depicts Abby walking on the Monon High Bridge towards Liberty, while
let's go to this quick comment here by Anna Mason 151. It's him. His face matches and lines up with the man on the video. I agree with that. No one else does. I agree with that. Nobody that I can find. His ability to hide in plain sight is a part of his ego. That is why he is still trying to fool people, including his wife. Good comment. I agree.
male subject wearing a dark jacket and jeans walks behind her. Near the end of the video, the man is heard in the video telling the girls, "Down the hill." Through further investigation of the location of the bodies, investigators also located a .40 caliber unspent round. They also determined that the articles of clothing from the girls were missing from the scene, including a pair of underwear and a sock. Through the investigation, there were interviews done with 3 of the 4 girls that were on the trails that day. The girls observed a male on the trails on February 13th, 2017 that matched the description of the male on the video recorded by Liberty German.
Matched.
The 3 girls identified as RV, BW, and AS encountered this male near the bench east of the Freedom Bridge. The girls were on the trail and were walking towards the Freedom Bridge to go home. The male they encountered was walking from the Freedom Bridge towards the Monon High Bridge. One of the girls, identified as AS, described the male as an older man walking on the trails as they were leaving, and she described him as kind of creepy.
Okay, we all know that the girls were leaving right as the girls were showing up, right? So now, why is Richard Allen showing up in such a hurry to get to that bridge? The same place that Abby and Libby are going to. Now, remember, that goes into me thinking this person is motivated and this crime was pre planned and that the girls were lured there. The biggest part of the piece of the puzzle, I think, is why and who else helped.
Text from Anna to KB. AS described the man as wearing like blue jeans, like really light blue jacket. His hair was gray, maybe a little brown, and he did not really show his face. Investigator Steve Mullen and Brent Ingram interviewed AS, and she described the male as wearing a blue jacket and light blue faded blue jeans. The jacket was a canvas duck type jacket. RV was also in the group of four girls, and she said that she said hi to the man and he just glared at them. She recalled him being in all black and had something covering his mouth.
So that's a little bit strange. Some of the witnesses explained seeing a guy in all black, but we know there's a lot of trees right there. The part where the girls seen the suspect was right by this bench, about midway on the trails, and there's a lot of shade there. So dark blue in a shaded area could easily be interpreted as black, right? They're not thinking they're supposed to remember this person. They're not thinking, hey, we got to remember the details of this person because he's a killer, and later on we're going to have to give the description to law enforcement. No, they're trying to look back the best that they can. RV
Recalled telling her sister that someone was in a grumpy mood. She went on to describe him as not very tall and bigger build. She said that he was not bigger than 5'10". RV went on to say in an interview that he was wearing a black hoodie, black jeans, and black boots. She said that he had his hand.
Let me go to something real quick. I think this was from Doug Rice, way before anybody ever heard anything about Richard Allen. See here, Doug says, this is exactly what the young witness I spoke with on several occasions described seeing. Right? And that's why we have the older looking sketch. It looks just like this, right? The nose and the eyes. But the nose is more rounded. Now, all they did was kind of put on a weird hat and gave him facial features based on what they could see in the video themselves and probably what maybe another witness described. I think it might have been the muddy and bloody witness or the muddy witness, where they reported the person without a face covering. And we know they weren't the witness responsible for the Young sketch. And also, if you look at this image here, it kind of looks like the Young sketch. And then they may have just kind of filled in the bottom of the mouth according to the witness that saw him on the bridge, which is responsible for the young person sketch. So really, they're putting together bits and pieces, and I think that's why they weren't really depending on these sketches too much. They knew they had a good solid eyes and a nose, which is a dead ringer for Richard Allen, right? Dead ringer. You can't tell me that doesn't look like Richard Allen. The only problem is his bottom of his part of his face was covered. So then they had to kind of do the old Mario Brothers 3. You know where the screen splits? They got to kind of mix and match. Well, I think they just happen to have mostly the flower symbol, and then the bottom part was the mushroom or something else, the fire star. They were just missing one solid piece. And I think that's what they were kind of accepting. They kind of accepted that fact with the new sketch in 2019. They said, okay, we may have gotten this wrong. We need to move these pieces around a little bit, and maybe we'll get closer. We got to do something. It's a short billed hat with a hoodie pulled up and a scarf below his nose. 40s to 50s. Dead ringer for Richard Allen. And around her height, 5'6" to 5'7". So pretty short. Dead ringer. And she was the one whose description was behind that first sketch. But as you can see, law enforcement took their own liberties with it. So just interesting. Now back to the PCA.
Hands in his pockets. An interview was conducted in 2020 of BW. She was able to show investigators a picture that she took on her phone of the Monon High Bridge with the timestamp of 12:43 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. BW showed investigators another picture she took at the bench just east of the Freedom Bridge when they were leaving at 1:26 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. BW stated after she took the picture at the bench, they started walking back towards the Freedom Bridge. BW stated that's when they walked past the man that matched the description of the individual in the picture. Detective Liggett believes the picture that she was referring to is the picture law enforcement released of the man on the bridge, taken from the video Liberty captured on her cell phone on the day of the murders.
Let's go to Leslie's comment here. Leslie says, I know I am the only one who believes it was only location and simply a predator looking for victims. I think he was too well equipped for watching fish and a stock ticker. So you're believing he's a lone wolf, and hopefully one day he can explain why he did what he did.
BW described
Most
the man
likely,
as wearing
yeah.
a blue or black windbreaker jacket. She stated the jacket had a collar and he had his hood up from the clothing underneath the jacket. BW advised he was wearing baggy jeans and was taller than her. She stated her head came up to approximately his shoulder. BW said RV. He said hi to the man and he said nothing back. BW described the man as walking with a purpose, like he knew where he was going. BW also stated the man had
Okay, so early on, they're telling law enforcement, yeah, he looked like he had plans. He had a place to be. So why was he beelining it to the very same place that Abby and Libby were coming to, and a very same location where they were letting people online who were catfishing them, telling them, hey, you should meet us here. And not only that, people are reaching out to these catfish and they're responding by saying, yeah, we were supposed to meet them there. Eventually, they're going to tie this all together. And I think all of the strangeness around the probable cause and why people feel like he's being railroaded and there's the secrecy and all this protection behind the scenes, it's because there's other people that need to be arrested, in my opinion.
had his hands in his pockets and kept his head down. She didn't get a good look at his face, but believed he was a white male. As the girls left, they crossed the Freedom Bridge and the railroad bridge over old SR 25, and an individual by the name of Betsy Blair was returning to the trails to finish her walk. Betsy Blair is seen on the video at Hoosier Harvest Store on 300 North, traveling eastbound on the trailhead to park at 1:46 actual time. Blair saw the girls walking above and she went under the railroad bridge. On September 21st, 2022, Detective Liggett was provided a tip narrative from Orion Den C 000074-01 to review. It was from the DNR Lieutenant Dan Doolin. The narrative was as follows. Mr. Allen was on the trail between 1:30 and 3:30. He parked at the old Farm Bureau building and walked to the new Freedom Bridge. While at the Freedom Bridge, he saw 3 females and noted one was taller and had brown or black hair. He did not remember the description, nor did he speak with them. He walked from the Freedom Bridge to the High Bridge. He did not see anybody, although he stated he was watching a stock ticker on his phone as he walked.
All right, let's look at the timeline real quick. Now, the end of this timeline isn't quite right. It's up for debate. We can talk about that another time, but sorry about the dogs. Okay, now this timeline starts at about 12:33. Now, this is around the time the girls were leaving the bridge and heading towards the bench, which is about in this area here. Now, this is when they're going to run into the bridge guy right here. And this is also where Richard Allen is going to say that he came across the three young girls, even explain what they look like. And that's the description of the girls who said, yeah, the guy that they saw is the guy in Liberty's video. And that's most likely the reason he's getting arrested for kidnapping is that very reason. They're going to point right at him in that courtroom, I believe. And they're going to say, yeah, that's the guy we saw. We weren't clear before, but now that we see him, I remember it clear as day. That's him. So this timeline should begin with the girls leaving the bridge, walking towards the Freedom Bridge. So they're going to leave High Bridge. There they are on the screen there. And notice the clock, and we can slow this down. Maybe one more. So now they had already spent some time at this location. They're leaving now. And Abby, it seemed like Abby and Libby were trying pretty hard to get out there. Now, it could have been just to meet them. Or were these three girls there as more backup? That's my backup. These three girls and Libby, or these three girls and Abby. They're going to have my back. I'm meeting somebody. Okay. So we know around this time the girls have already confirmed that they're heading to the bridge. They have a ride and they pretty much have secured a ride back. So at the very point that they made their decision to go officially to the bridge is right around the time that the killer shows up to the CPS building. And why is he coming from this location? Is he dropping people off at the cemetery? Does he have a connection to Ron Logan? Is he dropping folks off somewhere along the road here? So somewhere in here, the witnesses are going to cross paths with the suspect. And while the girls are crossing the bridge, notice the time. It's already 1:36. They're out of there. And the witness that sees the bridge guy on the bridge who gave the young person sketch sees the three witnesses crossing over above her as she's making her way to the Mears parking lot. She has not yet seen Richard Allen, but she has seen the three witnesses who also seen Richard Allen. Now they're going to testify to that in court. So you got Kelsey coming with the girls here to drop them off, just behind young bridge guy witness. Now, this is the part where I wasn't sure. Now, I don't know if Richard Allen follows Blair back out away from the bridge, and that's when he comes across the girls. But in this timeline, I have Richard Allen crossing the bridge entirely when the girls show up. And while they're already towards the end, he comes out of the darkness, walks the majority of the bridge back, looks around, sees that the coast is clear, and turns back around. And that's when the girls begin filming him. That's what's going on in this timeline. I don't know if that's what happened. We'll correct this and we might change it. Not sure. So Blair sees the young guy sketch, most likely because Richard Allen Here, let's go back. So Blair's already walking towards the bridge. Kelsey's on her way to her boyfriend's, and the girls are kind of hanging around right here in this area. Okay, so we'll pause it there. I'm going to pull something up real quick. Okay, now the witness walking towards the bridge, I believe this is the version of Richard Allen that she's seen, right? Standing a little bit out onto the bridge, exposed, no shade to cover his facial features. And of course, he's going to pull down his mask. You know, there's a woman walking up towards him. He doesn't want to look suspicious. Maybe even having a cigarette at that point in time, right? Looks like he has a cigarette on the bridge or something. He's smoking something. So he's going to have to take his face covering down in order to smoke the cigarette. With his head up and in the perfect lighting, this is what the witness remembers. Remember, she's not remembering a killer. She didn't have any plans of sitting in a police station with some sketch artist. So this hair could be a beanie. Who knows? She took a quick look and she's on her way. And I think the other witnesses got more of this version, right? The small brim of the hat, his little beanie cap, probably some sunglasses on top, some facial hair. Kind of a rounded nose. So that's what she sees out on the bridge. No, I mean, that timeline's pretty solid. I'm not seeing any issues with it so far.
He stated there were vehicles parked at the High Bridge Trail, however, did not pay attention to them. He did not take any photos or video. His cell phone did not list an IMEI, but did have the following: MEID-256 691 463 100 153 495 and MEID HEX 990024 702 5797. Potential follow-up information. Who were the three girls walking in the area of the Freedom Bridge? Through the statement of Mr. Allen, he admits that on February 13th, 2017, he parked his vehicle at the old Farm Bureau building from 1:30 to 3:30 and was on the trails at that time. There is no old Farm Bureau building anywhere close to the trails or bridges. Detective Leggett believes he is referring to the old Child Protective Services building. In 2017, Richard Allen owned a 2016 black Ford Focus and a 2006 gray Ford 500. Upon review of the video collected from the Hoosier Harvest Store on February 13, 2017, investigators were able to locate a vehicle that appears to match Allen's 2016 Ford Focus on the video at 1:27 actual time. This coincides with Allen saying he was at the trails around 1:30. Previously said above, RV, BW, and AS were leaving the trails and passed by a male matching the description of the male in the video taken by Liberty. Given the statements by Allen and the timestamp of the video from the Hoosier Harvest Store and the statements by the three of the four girls, Detective Liggett believes that the male the three of the girls saw was in fact Richard Allen. Allen stated that after he passed the girls and then he walked to the Monon High Bridge and saw nobody else. Investigators believe that after passing the Hoosier Hardware store at 146, Blair parked at the trailhead entrance across from the Mears residence. In her interview, she says there are no other cars at the trailhead entrance at that time. She walked to the Monon High Bridge and a male matching the male from Liberty's video. She described him as a white male wearing blue jeans and a blue jean jacket. This matches the blue duck canvas jacket AS describes. Blair said that the male was standing on the first platform of the Monon High Bridge approximately 50 feet away from her. Blair turned around at the bridge and continued her walk. Approximately halfway between the bridge and the main hub of the trails, she passed two girls walking towards the high bridge. Blair said that she believed it was Liberty German and Abigail Williams. At 1:49 on the Hoosier Hardware store video, there is a white car that matches Kelsey German's vehicle. Liberty and Abigail would have been dropped off right before this video. Blair finished her walk and is seen on the Hoosier Hardware store video leaving westbound at 2:14. Blair said that she saw no adults other than the male on the bridge. As Blair was leaving, she noted a vehicle was parked in an odd manner at the old Child Protection Service building.
Later,
She said that it was not odd for vehicles to be parked there, but it was odd that it was backed in near the building. She said that vehicles often use the south edge of the parking lot so they are closer to the trail to get to the Freedom Bridge. Detective Liggett reviewed a tip DIN-C001751 from Terry Wilson. Wilson was on his way to Delphi on February 13, 2017 on the Hoosier Heartland Highway at approximately 2:10. He observed what he described as a purple PT Cruiser or a small SUV-type vehicle parked on the south side of the old CPS building. Wilson said that it was backed in to conceal the license plate of the vehicle. During their interview, both Blair and Wilson drew a diagram and had the vehicle they...
Yeah, and I guess he could have gone there with plans to do harm to somebody or with the possibility in mind. But I mean, that goes to the idea of a premeditated murder, him backing in like that. That's just my opinion.
saw parked in the same general area or manner. And an interview was done of Sarah Carbaugh in 2017. She states that she was traveling east on 300 North and observed a male subject walking west on the north side of 300 North, away from the Monon High Bridge. She stated that he was wearing a blue-colored jacket and blue jeans and was muddy and bloody. She further stated that it appeared that he had gotten into a fight. Investigators determined from the video that she was on 300 North at 3:57 p.m. Richard M. Allen was interviewed by investigators on October 13, 2022 at the Investigation Center. He was interviewed by Detective Liggett and Carroll County Prosecutor Investigator Stephen Mullen. He agreed to come to the center and speak with investigators. He was advised his rights, and he was further advised that he was not under arrest and was free to go. Investigator Mullen explained to him how to leave the center if he so desired. He stated that he was in fact on the trails on February 13, 2017. He further stated that he saw three girls on the trails east of the Freedom Bridge and also that he went on the Monon High Bridge. He also told the investigator that he was wearing blue jeans and a blue or black Carhartt jacket with a hood on that day. He stated he also wore some type of head covering. He further claimed that he saw no one else but the three girls that he observed east.
Let's go to Richard's comment. Good to see you, Richard. As a father, it makes me sad these girls were exposed to so many dangerous people and situations, not blaming anyone specifically, but these young girls were not protected as they should have been, in my opinion. And I agree, but hindsight, right? It's always 2020. And there shouldn't have been no reason that they couldn't have been at the trails that day. But I do agree with the social media, but I also know that these predators target certain folks. And if Libby was the target, maybe even Abby, I mean, I don't know what her home life was like, but we know if things aren't so good, if there's not a father in the home, or if somebody's adopted or struggling, what did Libby have on her Facebook? Something like waiting for Peter Pan to like show up through my window or to come swoop me away, or I don't know, something very strange, almost like she was asking for somebody to come call, like kind of flying a flag out there like I'm a troubled teenager. And we know from all the cases that we cover and some of these pedophiles that actually come forward and say, hey, look, this is how we do our targeting. These are the victims that we're looking for, right? They don't like any fathers that are going to be a problem. They're looking for somebody who's looking for extra help. They're happy to be that helping hand. Like, oh, you deserve a night out. I'll come and babysit for you, right? People that you would never expect, things like that.
Of the Freedom Bridge. Further, prior to the interview, he told investigators that he also had guns at his home. Richard M. Allen's wife, Kathy Allen, spoke to investigators as well. She confirmed that Richard did have guns and knives at the residence. She also stated that Richard still has a blue Carhartt jacket. The evidence gathered shows that on February 13, 2017, that 4 girls, RV, BW, AS, and IV, were on the trail when they observed a male individual walking on the trails towards the Monon High Bridge. The
Thank you,
male
Joey.
was wearing clothes similar to the clothes of the male depicted in the video taken from Liberty German's phone. Investigators know that this male is the last known individual to have contact with Liberty German and Abigail Williams before they were murdered. Further, Betsy Blair was shown a picture of the individual on the Monon High Bridge, and she says that's the same individual that she witnessed on the trails and on the bridge. In an interview with Richard M. Allen done on October 13, 2022, he admits that he was in fact on the trails on February 13, 2017, and walked past 3 girls and continued on the Monon High Bridge. He stated that he was physically on the bridge. After Betsy Blair sees this individual, there are several other individuals on the trail that don't observe the man or Liberty German or Abigail Williams. Sarah Carbaugh then observes a man walking down 300 North with a blue jacket and jeans, and that he is muddy and bloody, as if he had just been in a fight. She is shown a picture of the man on the bridge, and she stated it's the same man she observed walking on 300 North. Investigators believe that Richard M. Allen is the last individual to have contact with Liberty German and Abigail Williams. Investigators further believe that Richard M. Allen is the individual depicted on the Monon High Bridge from the video taken from Liberty German's phone. Investigators believe Richard Allen was not seen on the trail after 2:13 p.m. because he was in the woods with victim 1 and victim 2. An unspent .40 caliber round between the bodies of victim 1 and victim 2 was forensically determined to have been cycled through Richard Allen's Sig Sauer model P226. The Sig Sauer model P226 was found at Richard Allen's residence.
Thank you, NoFX, and thank you, Joey. I appreciate you guys.
And he admitted to owning it. Investigators were able to determine that he had owned it since 2001. Richard Allen stated he had not been on that property where the unspent round was found, and he did not know the property owner, and that he had no explanation as to why the round cycled through his firearm would be at that location. Furthermore, he stated that he never allowed anyone to use or borrow the Sig Sauer model P226.
That makes me think that Richard Allen was 100% unaware that he had left anything like that at the crime scene.
Investigators believe that after the victims were murdered, Richard Allen returned to his vehicle by walking down CR 300 North. Investigators believe he was seen by Sarah Carbaugh walking back to his vehicle on CR 300 North with clothes that were muddy and bloody. Tony Leggett, along with investigators, believe the statements made by the witnesses because they corroborate the timeline of the death of 2 victims, as well as coincide with the admissions made by Richard Allen. Further, the accounts relayed by Betsy Blair, RV, BW, and AS are similar in nature, and timestamps of photographs taken by BW correspond to the times the juvenile female said they were on the trail and saw the male individual. Investigators believe Richard M. Allen committed this kidnapping, which resulted in the killing of victim 1 and victim 2. From their prior conclusions, investigators believe Richard M. Allen was the male depicted on victim 2's video saying, "Guys, down the hill." They believe Richard M. Allen was carrying his Sig Sauer model P226 on that day. due to the cycled round matching that firearm was located within feet of victim two's body. They further believe he was carrying a Sig Sauer model P226 from the audio from victim two's video, in which investigators believe they hear the sound of a gun being cycled and one of the victims mentioning a gun. Investigators believe after that time, victim 1 and victim 2 were removed from the bridge by Richard to where their murders occurred. Charges were filed against Richard M. Allen on October 28, 2022, for 2 counts of murder. Once Richard M. Allen was taken into custody, he was moved to the Westville Correctional Facility,
Good point,
which is
Lisa.
part of the Indiana Department of Corrections, for safekeeping. He has been in said facility since November of 2022. When Richard M. Allen entered the facility, he was placed in the segregation unit for his protection. In the segregation unit, his cell is equipped with a
Thanks,
video
V.
recorder which records his activities within the cell. There are also logs indicating when Richard M. Allen leaves the cell and for what purposes. He is also being seen by medical providers and mental health specialists to evaluate his physical condition and monitor his mental health. Richard M. Allen also has the ability to use a tablet in his cell and send text messages, make phone calls, and listen to music. Upon Richard M. Allen's arrival to the facility, he was placed on watch because of certain statements he made about harming himself. Throughout his stay, his mental health improved to the point that he was taken off of watch. He was also participating in recreation time and beginning to exercise. The facility reports that he was doing well and that they had no issues or concerns. His day-to-day demeanor was that he was quiet, read a lot of books, did crossword puzzles, and exercised daily. On April 3rd, 2023, Richard M. Allen made a phone call to his wife, Kathy Allen. In that phone call, Richard M. Allen admits several times that he killed Abby and Libby. Investigators had the phone call transcribed, and the transcription confirms that Richard M. Allen admits that he committed the murder of Abigail Williams and Liberty German. He admits several times within the phone call that he committed the offenses as charged. His wife, Kathy Allen, ends the phone call abruptly. Soon after, attorneys for Richard M. Allen filed an emergency motion to modify safekeeping order. In that motion, the defense states that Richard M. Allen's mental state has declined because Westville Correctional Facility is unfit and that he should be moved.
Right?
Defense also makes allegations that his mental health has declined due to the point where Richard M. Allen has been deprived of his constitutional right to assist in his defense of this case. Further, defense alleges that his mental capacity has declined because of his incarceration at Westville Correctional Facility.
So we can assume that that's going to be his next play, right? We can be pretty much assured of that.
Defense has also challenged that his treatment is unconstitutional. Soon after, investigators were made aware by the warden of Westville Correctional Facility that Richard M. Allen began to act strangely. Richard M. Allen was wetting down paperwork he had gotten from his attorneys and eating it. He was refusing to eat and refusing to sleep. He would go days on end refusing to sleep. He further broke the tablet that he used for text messages and phone calls. He went from making up to 2 phone calls a day as of April 3rd, 2023, to not making any phone calls at all. To date, Richard M. Allen still has not made a phone call since April 3rd, 2023. On April 14th, 2023, Richard M. Allen was evaluated by 2 psychiatrists and 1 psychologist to discuss his turn in behavior and whether or not there was a need for involuntary medication.
Thanks, GP.
The panel would also discuss moving Richard M. Allen to a different facility that has a psychiatric unit. From that meeting, it was determined that Richard M. Allen did not need involuntary medication and that he did not need to be moved to another facility. Since that meeting, Richard M. Allen is
Hey, Red
now
Queen.
sleeping and eating. His behavior is returning to what was prior to making the admission on
Thanks,
April
Richard.
3rd, 2023.
that will do it for the probable cause affidavit. And we are out of time. There was a lot that I wanted, a little bit more that I wanted to go over. Let's see, maybe we can take a look at this. All right. The witness list. Kathy Allen, Sarah Carbaugh was the muddy, bloody witness, not Maria Robinson. I found this online. Stephen Buckley, Jeremy Clinton, Josh Edwards, Brian Harshman, William Coffers, Wesley McWhirter. Wesley is the CPS witness, saw a car at 2:28 p.m. Melissa Oberg, ballistic laboratory analyst. A.J. Smith, Anna Spath, Bree Wilbur, Rayleigh Voorhees, Betsy Blair, Kelsey German, Matthew Clemens, Dan C. Doolin. Betsy Blair, Walker lady, saw Rick Allen on platform 1 of the bridge. Same car as Terry Wilson, parked in the same manner. Jay Harper, Jerry Holman, Tony Leggett, Stephen Mullen, Terry Wilson, David Vito. Terry Wilson is the CPS witness, saw the purple PT Cruiser. All right, guys, that's going to do it for today's live stream. I'm all out of time. Some things I got to take care of. But I do want to give a shout out to Rainy Days, Metal Mama, Ziggy, and Tom. Thank you. Joey, NoFX, Leslie, V, and GP. Thank you guys for sponsoring today's live stream. Couldn't do it without you guys. You got it, Anna. Thanks for participating in the chat. Thank you, Richard, for hitting up the Cash App. I appreciate you, my friend. Probably use that to buy a bucket of golf balls. Gonna hit the range tomorrow. Thank you for that. You got it, Willow. Good to see you. Anything I like. Have a great night. Farmer, take care. Metal, have a great night as well. Joey, remember, we know that the witness that said she saw a man that was muddy and wet, not bloody. Well, that's according to the memorandum. So you definitely want to take both sides with a grain of salt. The truth will be somewhere in the middle. You got it, Richard? All right. You guys take care. GP with the 3-month flex. Thank you so much. Anytime. You're the man. Appreciate you. GP says been around longer than that. Yes, you have. All right, guys, take care. If you're part of the replay crew, please let me know what you thought in the comments here of today's live stream. And I'll do my best to keep track of these comments. And I'll see you guys again real soon. Don't forget, members, tomorrow we have a meeting around 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Take care, everybody. Peace out.